Welcome to FHS Legacy Voices, the podcast where we celebrate the people who have shaped the history and spirit of Fuquay-Varina High School. Today we're joined by Mr. Michael Bowden, a proud member of the class of 1990, who later returned to serve at FHS from year 1997 to today. Through his role of teaching and leading, Mr. Bowden has carried the Bengal spirit full circle, first as a student and then as an educator. We're excited to revisit high school memories, reflect on his years of service, and hear how his legacy continues to inspire our community. So, Mr. Bowden, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Well, I graduated from high school here in 1990, obviously. My family has been here in the Willow Springs, Fuquay area for over 200 years in this form or another. So I guess you say we're kind of native, although my immediate family, we did live in West Virginia and Kentucky and Virginia and different places, and they did construction work. But my grandparents, great grandparents on my father's side were always here. And so I grew up on the family farm and uh, came here to Fuquay High School, and I saw this place from the time I was a small kid attending ball games and everything else, and I always wanted to go here. It worked out that way, despite us living in other states at times.
That's nice. Who or what had the biggest influence on your decision to become an educator and leader?
I would say Jerry Holland probably had the biggest influence. He was my agriculture teacher, and he was just a fine man. You wouldn't find anybody around had anything bad to say about the man. He was just a good Christian gentleman, and he loved agriculture. He was a native of Holly Springs and actually graduated from Fuquay High School also. And his family had been in the area a long, long time too. But the man just loved what he did. He made a tremendous impact on us and just poured himself into us. And of course, I'd always heard my father talk about his agriculture classes here at the old Fuquay Springs High School and how much he loved them. And so that idea was planted into me really early. And then Jerry Holland just kind of sealed the deal for me wanting to be an agriculture teacher.
Sound like you took up his mantle then, huh?
I tried to. Yeah. Big shoes to fill, and they still are, even though I've been trying it for almost 30 years now.
Before I've seen you've been succeeding at it.
Well, hope so. Some days I don't always think that, but I hope I've been succeeding. I tell you, they posted up the Teacher of the Year stuff on today in the Quay and see all the comments. It makes you feel kind of humble. I guess the difference you made in people really does make you feel kind of humble.
How did you come to join the FHS community and what made Fuquay High feel like the right place for you? I think we've touched on it a bit, but
Yes, yeah. Obviously, I was on here for high school. And just wind up going here and yeah, and I tell my students that, yeah, you get out of high school what you put in high school. And so I encourage them to join clubs, play athletics, do whatever, and those things, along with the teachers that pour into you, are what makes the memories. And so that just really made me want to come back here and be part of this. Yeah, and I tell you, my picture was in the paper so much in the Independent back in the days when it was still published between FFA and Student Council and Beta Club and Key Club and athletics and everything else. People got sick of seeing me, I think, sometimes in the newspapers. And it's honestly some of the best memories and best times of my life. So,
what's the name? Can you share an early memory from your first year that stuck with you?
first year teaching and first year as a student.
Also, either what do you want to do?
Okay. Well, I guess my first year as a student walking into Fuquay High School, yeah, I just went class to class, as we did. Of course, the building was much smaller back then. It was just another two-story building. There's now been torn down, and we didn't have all the other buildings. And, it was a small 2A school. But I remember walking down the hallway going to my agriculture class, and I didn't know exactly where I was going because it was out under the stairwell, kind of out by itself, and which is where it's actually a good place for ag classes to be. And I asked this gentleman who I thought was a custodian to ask where the class was because man was just wearing jeans and a button-up shirt and had a big old ring of keys on his side. And that big old ring of keys made me think it was a custodian. And it turned out that was actually Mr. Holland. And I had had his wife at the middle school, and I didn't know what he looked like. And I thought the world of her and him both. And I guess to carry on the tradition, I still carry that big old ring of keys.
Nice. Do you know if you've been mistaken for a janitor a few times because of that?
It wouldn't surprise me. I tell you, the first day I came back teaching, Miss Lottie Moore was the head custodian here, and she's been a custodian on staff. And I went to go in the teacher's break room, and she thought I was still a student. Even though 7 years later, I had to show her my ID badge and everything. Or should prove to her I was a teacher, not a student.
Nice.
I don't think I get mistaken for student anymore, but didn't want to.
Go on, Mr. Bowling.
I hear you.
Let's see. What was it like to come back to Fuquay-Varina High School as a teacher?
Well, there's obviously some changes. I mean, I knew a lot of the families in the community, and yeah, it had some, I guess, younger brothers of people I had gone to high school with, and younger sisters, stuff like that. But it was honestly just good to be at home. That was always my goal, was to hope to get back here and take Mr. Holland's place, and I was able to get my foot in the door. And I'd always helped with athletics and stuff, and played athletics when I was in high school, and then they actually taught me into being an athletic trainer when I came back teaching too. So I did athletic training for about 6 or 7 years. Although I couldn't call myself an athletic trainer, I wasn't certified. I was a sports safety technician. So, but it was, yeah, still very much a small town feel. Although we were growing, because while I was in college, part of the new campuses here now, this old building they didn't tear down was built while I was in college. So came back to a little bit bigger building, and we actually went from a 2A school up to a 3A school. So we're in the process of growing to as big as we are now. So.
What are some of your proudest moments during your time at FEHS?
Oh man, I would say the things I'm probably the most proud of is when my students succeed, and then to get to see what they go off in in life. They win contests and things like that with FFA. I'm obviously proud of them. I'm proud of them when they build really good projects and stuff in the shop, and do things, that are above and beyond expected. But, when I get to see the difference that I make when they get out and graduate, and they come back to you, 10, 15 years later, like, I learned a bunch of stuff in your class, and that's what made me decide to go into the career I've done. Or I use the things that you taught me every day at home in my life, and just trying to keep things running, or whatever the case may be. So those are the things that make you the most proud.
So you help build the foundation for people to find their path in life,
Yeah,
basically?
that's what we try to do. Try to do that in all CTE classes, but that's the thing that I'd be like, is to show them something they could think about for a career opportunity. And it works out. Of course, we also get reputation with being the people that can fix things and do things, and folks that come through when something has to be taken care of that nobody thought about sometimes too. We get called on a lot with FFA and ag classes to take care of problems sometimes. So.
That's probably both fun and also a bit annoying at times.
It can be, but it's mostly fun. But
Is there a program, tradition, or initiative that you helped to shape that still carries on today?
well, I guess we just carried on the tradition of FFA. FFA has been a big part of this community, as well as ag classes, since 1931. That's the oldest documented date we have. I think there may have been some ag classes before that in the 20s, but I can't find any documentation for it. But we've managed to keep this program up and running for almost 100 years, and I hope we continue to keep it up and running. But just carrying on that tradition, and of course, we build new traditions in the thing. We do different contests, different activities. We do different things with our students than we did back in my day. We've transitioned from a very farm-oriented, rural-type student in school to much more modern, where agriculture is much more than sows, plows, and cows, as they say. So, teach all kinds of high-tech mechanical careers and everything else, as well as traditional agriculture things.
How did you see students grow and change during your years here?
Urbanization is the big thing. Even when I came back and started teaching, we only had a handful of kids that lived on the farms that I knew their families and stuff. And it looked steadily phased out to where, if anybody knows anything about a farm, it's because their grandparents or great grandparents grew up on a farm. And we're just a very, very different type of student. More urbanized. They don't know as much about hands-on things. And especially with the lives changing, and Willow Springs opening now, we've lost that entire group of people. We lost all the kids that went to Middle Creek, and then we lost a bunch of the Holly Springs kids, but then we've got them back now. And so, in fact, I feel like we've got more Holly Springs kids here than we have Fuquay kids. It's just a different mentality that you deal with. There's just so much more affluence and urbanization than what there was in the small rural community.
So would you say that teaching them is harder, like students is harder now than before, or?
Well, that's a loaded question. I feel like my students get into less mischief. They're not as curious about things because electronics keep them entertained. But as far as the hands-on skills, I have a lot heavier lift trying to teach them how to do hands-on skills than I used to, because they had to get outside and work and do blue collar things and work with parents and grandparents and do things in the past where they don't have to so much now. Everything's kind of computer based, that stuff in a lot of families. So, I tell you, taking a kid that doesn't know what a pair of pliers or a wrench is and trying to make a certified engine mechanic out of him is a trick. But certified welder or something, it's a heavy lift and a long way to go sometimes. So.
This sounds like these agriculture classes, and particularly your job, is a lot more important nowadays.
Well, in some ways it is. You know, we've always got to try to teach kids how to do something with agriculture, just to have something to eat and a place to live. It's vitally important too to teach them just basic skills to go repair and maintain their home and do things too, just to save some money with the cost of everything going up. And of course, the trades are extremely hot. Yeah, everything comes around full circle in society and education. We're at a point now where hands-on skills and folks doing trade stuff is like the it careers that pay really good, more so than business computers do right now. So trying to make sure the kids have the skills and knowledge to be able to get into that if that's what they choose to do. So,
How did FHS shape you as an educator or leader?
well, I mean, I was pulled into from the minute I get in here. Yeah, the minute I got here, people pushed me to get out of my comfort zone, pushed me to do things I didn't think I could do because I was a very shy individual. I still am at heart, but I didn't like to get up and do public speaking. I got forced to do public speaking. I didn't like to do things that made me uncomfortable or try new things, and I kinda got forced to do that. And of course, I got a good sound basic education, more than a basic education because I took some classes that were honors and different things, and I was very well prepared to go to college, I felt like, when I left here. Now, I may not have been the smartest person in the world, but I had good steady habits and things that were instilled into me to be able to be successful in college.
What do you hope your students or colleagues remember most about you?
I hope they just remember that I cared about the kids and I tried to give them every opportunity possible to be successful. I hope that's what they remember. Yeah, it's all about student opportunity and trying to, as you know, being an FFA member, we try to take you guys to contests and on field trips and conferences and everything we can possibly do to help you expand your horizon and push you out the comfort zone a little bit. So,
Care we give is definitely evident.
yes, yes, I appreciate that. So, yeah.
What would your former FHS classmates remember most about you?
Uh, I think most of them remember I was a good person. Of course, I think they all remember I was the bad person because I was if a fake president and all that good stuff. And yeah, and I had a bit of a reputation for being a little bit of a nerd too, because I made good grades in some classes, definitely not math, but history and English I did pretty well. Yeah, of course I got a little senioritis senior year too. The grades dropped a little bit, but a lot of them remember me being a history bug, and I always remember that I was out there with the football team, different athletic things. And I played JV football, but I wound up being I guess, equipment manager or something and doing varsity stuff and everything. So I was always on the sidelines and stuff, getting equipment ready and fixing things and taking care of stuff and doing that type of thing. So fixing things is built into me, I guess.
Sounds like he was very active in school and like leadership roles.
Yeah, I was, and that's a lot easier in a small school too. But it's still very doable. Students just need to, like I said, you get into school what you pour into school. So I tried to put a lot into the place and got a lot out of it. Maybe we'll come back. So,
Can you share a story of a student or moment that stands out to you especially meaningful?
well, how much time you got? um,
Funny.
well, I've got it's hard to pick just one student that's very meaningful because a lot of my former students mean a lot to me. Well, all my former students do. Some of them are always super special. I've got one that's an elementary school teacher up in North Raleigh. Yeah, she moved in here. Her family was from dairy cattle country up in the western part of the state. Mom and dad unfortunately got divorced. She wound up coming here. So she and I have stayed close through the years. I've got a student that is a professor at NC State teaching agriculture engineering, and he calls me sometimes to ask about equipment and different things. Of course, I call him for help too. So yeah, it feels good when we're advising a college professor sometimes. I say advising, he's a lot smarter than I am. I'm not really teaching him anything. Um, so many of them they have their own businesses. Um, one of them is a manager of all the rental departments at Gary Pool Equipment Company, and I helped him expose him to a program to get his foot in the door at Gary Pool, learn how to be a technician, different things, and it just continued to grow. That's all him. Those are all things, and and I can tell you about the most interesting day I had if you got enough time to do it one day. It was a very eventful day one day.
Oh no.
Yeah, so
Fish pat him in Fogo.
yeah, and that was not such good memories, but but a lot of things happened in the course of that day. So yeah, we're sitting here, I might as well tell you. So it started out first period in the morning. One of my young ladies who was an FFA that I really liked a lot, she had a seizure sitting at the table sanding, and she fell off the stool, and we got her on the floor, patted her head, and they sent to, go get help and get a wheelchair and all that stuff. And we got her up and called her mama, was talking to her and telling mama. And about the time we got her out of class, I looked and water was running out from underneath the bathroom door in the locker room that was in the old shop.
Really?
So I walked in there and looked, and it looked like a waterfall coming over the bathroom stall. And we didn't know where to cut the water off. We looked for, I don't know, a solid hour trying to find the cutoff. The janitors didn't know, the maintenance folks didn't know, we couldn't find it. And I had 4 or 5 of my boys with the squeegee push brooms trying to push water down the drain in the locker room. And I mean, it was exhausting. And water was coming out so fast, trying to keep my shop from flooding and Matcher's shop from flooding. And it wore them boys out pushing water. We finally figured out after about an hour the cutoff for the water was in the ceiling of the masonry shop next door. So they had to get on a 20-foot ladder and get up there to cut the water off. Well, that was first and second period. Well, go on to about third period, and one of my little boys comes into class, and he is drunk as a coot. And he falls out of his desk laughing. Well, I called admin to come get him, carry him out of there. And he can't walk, won't get up and get in the wheelchair, acting like he's so drunk. And one of the boys picks him up to help him walk, and then he takes about a step, falls, and busts his head open on a pencil sharpener that was mounted to the wall at the time. And he lays there. They finally get him up and get him in the wheelchair. Well, they take him on up to the front office. It turned out he wasn't as drunk as he was making out to be. And so he jumped up out of the wheelchair and ran all over the school with the SRO chasing him everywhere. They finally ran him down, brought him back, and set him down in the office. Well, he jumped up and ran again. She ran him all over the school again. And by this time, it's getting about time for fourth period to end. And the buses are coming in. And he jumps up and runs for a third time. This time he runs all over the school, and he goes out onto an activity bus, or on a school bus, and he's fighting the SRO as hard as he can. So she tells him, if you don't quit fighting me, I'm going to handcuff you. So she puts the handcuffs on him, and this kid, by the way, was a dwarf. He slips his hands out of the handcuffs, and he's still slapping at her, and the handcuff is hitting her all over his wrist and on the knuckles and blooding her knuckles up and everything. And she said, if you don't quit, I'm going to pepper spray. And he didn't quit, so she pepper sprayed the boy. Oh, well, she pepper sprays the boy, and assistant principal's there the whole time, and he got a little pepper spray going back in his face. He thought, well, this ain't too bad. So he starts choking and gagging all of a sudden. He goes off the back of the bus to get his air, try to get some air and get out of that stuff. But the kid decides he's going to jump up and run off the bus again after being pepper sprayed. He goes to run off the back door of the bus and goes to jump out, and the AP standing back there, and he's just got eyes all puffy and really can't see anything. All he sees is a shadow coming at him. So he grabs the kid and slams him on the ground because he couldn't tell what was coming at him. Well, the boy, I guess at this point is hurt, so they had to call an ambulance to take him off in a stretcher at that point. But that was probably the most eventful day I ever Fuquay-Varina High School.
It sounds very effective.
And by the way, the water coming out of the toilet was because one of my students, while we were attending to the girl with the seizure, went in with a drill bit and drilled a hole in the supply line going to the toilet, thinking people were going to come in and flush and get squirted with water. No, he hit the main supply. And so we had 250 gallons a minute coming over the stall in there. That's why it was taking so much effort to push water.
Yep, that was definitely fun.
That was good for us.
No, hopefully all days. The thing.
Yeah, all days are not like that. And it was kind of, I can say traumatic, but it was frustrating. But now you look back at it and just have to laugh. I mean, not every day has a day like that. So thank God.
Let's see. How has your educational journey extended beyond FHS?
Well, I mean, I'm always trying to learn. I mean, just in the job with this nature, you're always having to read on things. We have to go to workshops and stuff as ag teachers and just general teachers. So a lot of times during the summer, I'm going to different symposiums and workshops and trying to gain and learn stuff. And of course, I teach youth group at church and Sunday school too. So I'm having to read and study and do different things to be able to learn in those regards too about the Lord and different things to teach those. So that's how I've kept up with my education. Of course, learning different tools and machines and welding processes and all that kind of stuff too, which is where my interest lies, about new farming techniques. And talk to my students, I tell you, I'm a tool nerd. I can tell them more about tools than they ever wanted to know.
The lessons What lessons from our school have you carried into your broader career or community work?
Well, it has made me have to be a good facilitator and a good manager to be able to manage a classroom and deal with students and stuff. So, when I'm in church and other civic organizations and things, you get good charge of activities, but the skills you learn here help you be able to facilitate things and direct things and get things done. Because, yeah, trying to keep 20 students in the shop busy is a challenge sometimes. So,
Oh,
yeah.
especially where you have like tools and stuff that
Yes,
you
you're
have to
running
make
power
to
tools.
make
You have to
sure.
learn to watch things. You learn to assign people tasks and, check on them, that type of thing. So, yeah.
Mm. In what ways do you think FHS has contributed to the larger educational landscape?
Well, I think it's just the graduates we put out. We put out hopefully highly qualified graduate that is able to go out and go to college and make something themselves or go to work and make something themselves, military, whatever their passion is. Hope we're contributing to society that way. And then I think it's just those of us here at Fuquay High School that we're pouring into our community and into our future, hopefully. So,
What advice would you give to today's FHS students?
study hard, get good grades. You can do better than you think you can do. And I wish somebody told me that. Of course, looking back, I wish I'd have studied harder. And then the other advice I'd give you, is if you can't get into the school program or the career you think you want to get into initially, there's usually another way in. Don't give up that dream. You can find a different way in. It's always as I tell my students, a back door, a side door. If I have to, we'll break a hole in the roof and crawl down. If that's what we have to do, we'll figure out how to get you there if you can't get in the front door. So,
Yep, and that way you can help them provide them the tools for that too.
yep, exactly. What else you got?
What role do what role do you see as the future of education, and how can our school continue to play a role in it?
Well, I think the future role is to continue doing what we're doing. We're trying to get students ready for life after high school. We're trying to teach them life lessons as well as the basic education they need to be ready for the next step, whatever that next step is. Yeah, and I mean, of course, that role always changes a little bit because when I first started teaching, we didn't have all these computers and electronics. I had to learn those things. Of course, the present move now is to go back away from them. They don't think students are learning as well now, so they push to go back to paper and pencil. So, but I have experience in that area, so we'll see. We'll go back, see how it goes. I think there's a survey Wake County just sent out about technology that I haven't even looked at, but I know all the other surrounding counties around us, yeah, partially because of budget cuts and the cost of laptops and Chromebooks and everything. And there's studies showing that students don't learn as well on computers when they're easily distracted. So we'll see where the future holds with that. Sometimes the old ways are the best ways. So,
And last question, if you could describe FHS in one word, what would it be and why?
oh man, one word, that's a lot. I guess the best word I could use is just home. Try to make people feel at home. We'll try to be at home in our community. We try to be home with our students, with our faculty, everything, and just try to have a real home and family environment for everybody. Yeah, of course, people have to choose to want to be a part of that home, part of that faculty, yeah, part of that family, I guess. But we really do try to make people feel welcome and to pour into them like they're our family. All right.
Thank you, Mr. Bowden, for sharing your story with us. And thank you to our listeners for tuning in to FHS Legacy Voices. Stay tuned for more alumni stories.
There we go.